right, so we're going to try this. Hopefully this will work, and hopefully you'll understand it. If you don't, it's not a big deal. I am almost certain I will see you on Monday. I hope everyone's been safe. I realize several of you have been without power. You may still be without power. You may be watching me on your precious cell phone that you've had charging and you're choosing to look at a lesson. So, 2 days out of school. I miss you guys. So hopefully we don't get too far behind if some of you can get started on this activity. So I had planned for us to do the tent activity, which I know you heard me talk about, designing a tent. It is lesson 19 in Unit 1. So the way you can access this lesson if you don't have your workbook, you can go to the website. Go to the internet, use Google Chrome if you have Google Chrome. Go to Google Chrome and go to www.im.openupresources.org. So all of that's lowercase, just like I said it, im.openupresources.org. Make sure you spell resources correct, because if you don't, it won't work. And hopefully it's on the screen and you can see it. Once you go there, you'll need to go to the student part. So you'll scroll down to the student tab and you'll click on 6th grade, and that will take you to our 6th grade curriculum. Once you go there, you'll need to click on the green box that says Unit 1 for surface area and area, and then you click on Lesson 19, Designing a Tent. So once you go there, you'll have what you need. And I'll also send, I'll send that information in an email to your parents so that you can either just look at it on your computer or you can print it out if you'd like, if you don't have your workbook. If you have your workbook, it's easy peasy. You just turn to lesson 19. All right, so designing a tent. So the pages that I have are backwards. I'm hoping to be able to drop them in on my video so that they are forwards. So, anyway, the first part is the student-facing statement, task statement. So there's a part 1 and there's a part 2. Part 1 gives you all the specifications for your tent. So when we think about a tent is just a prism. There is a design that kind of looks like a pyramid, but the bottom part is a prism with a pyramid on top. So how many of you have been camping? Anybody? I can't really see your hands, but I'm going to assume that several of you have been camping. I've been camping several times. It's always a challenge because I'm always scared a deer is going to attack us in the middle of the night, or a bear, or going to the bathroom is always tricky. Usually we're at a campsite, so there's usually like bathhouses, kind of like at BJP. Or I always struggle with dropping my food in the leaves. Like, it's inevitable. Somebody drops their hot dog on the ground and it gets coated in dirt, and we have to cook another one. Breakfast is kind of tricky when we try to make breakfast over the stove, but it's always fun. We always have a great time. So we have 2 tents at our house. We have a hugacious tent. It's gigantic, and it sleeps 8 people. So I could even fit, when my little one was really little, I could fit the pack and play in there. So if you have little people at your house, you know what a pack and play is. It's like a travel crib. It was huge. We also have another tent that's a little bit smaller that only sleeps 2 or 3 people. 3 people's a little cramped. 2 people, probably okay. The big tent that we have, we can stand in it. It's pretty tall in the center. Like, we can stand up. In the other tent that only sleeps 2 people, you're not standing in it. You have to like walk around on your knees, or you just have to sit. No standing in that tent. So those are the 2 tents that we have. You may have tents that you're familiar with. I hope that you do. So on the first task-facing statement, and I realize that if I haven't put a thing up, that's probably backwards. It says that, have you ever been camping? You might know that sleeping bags are all about the same size, but tents come in a variety of shapes and sizes. Your task is to design a tent to accommodate up to 4 people. So don't make me a tent that's got 8 people in it, because we need just 4 people. We're not going above and beyond with this, just 4 people. And estimate the amount of fabric needed to make your tent. Your design and estimate must be based on the information given and have mathematical justification. So you need to be able, in your math process, on your sheet and in your workbook, to be able to justify what you've done. It's got to make sense. First, look at these examples of tents, the average specifications of a camping tent, and standard sleeping bag measurements. Talk to your partner about, now realize if you're at home, you may not have a partner. So just think through it. If your parents are close or they're listening, you can talk to your parent about it. Or you can pretend to talk to me and I'll pretend to listen because I can't, I'm pre-recorded. You need to think about similarities and differences among the tents of the slide that I'm going to show you, information that will be important for your designing process, and the pros and cons of various designs. So if I'm going to design a smaller tent, it's probably going to be a little bit easier because I'm not going to have to come up with a bunch of different measurements, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So the next part are tent styles. So there are styles of tents, and if you're familiar with camping, you've seen these tents before. So you can see that there are different styles. So this one's pretty simple. It's just a rectangular prism. As they get bigger, you see that it's a rectangular prism with a pyramid on top where those triangles come together to a vertex. So this one is a little bit bigger. It's a pentagon. So it would be a rectangular prism with a triangular prism on top. So think through what you are going to want to do for your design. Which one do you think you'll use? And if you use the more simpler version, it's okay. Nobody's going to think bad about you. But you're going to have to work through all the things I'm going to tell you. All right, so then at the bottom, there is a specification piece that tells you for several different kinds of tents, there are different heights. So like in my smaller tent that I own, we can't stand in it. So it's only about 3 feet tall. In our hugacious tent, where we could sleep like our entire family, we can stand in that tent. So it's about 6 to 7 feet tall in the center. So those are things you need to think about in regards to what you're going to design. All right, so that's the height. We also need to think about the base. So the base is going to be important because what's going to go on the base? The sleeping bag. So you need to know how many sleeping bags, because we said up to 4 people. You need to know the dimensions of a sleeping bag. So an average sleeping bag is going to be about 74 inches by 34 inches. That's your standard. So remember, you're dealing with the height in feet and the sleeping bag is in inches. So you need to make sure you're making conversions. Remember how many feet, how many inches are in a foot. So think about those conversions, and I would go ahead and convert all of that so it's the same. All right, so you're going to create and sketch your tent design. Your tent must include a floor. We can't sleep on the dirt. Sorry. What decisions were important when choosing your tent design? And these are all in your workbook. These are all on the task pages that I've attached in an email. They're all there. How much fabric do you estimate will be necessary to make your tent? And then show your reasoning and provide mathematical justification. So thinking about the fabric, how much fabric are you going to need? And you can put fabric in inches and feet. I don't mind. We can convert that later to yards because fabric usually comes in yards. The last part of this activity, part 2, is answering just some culminating questions. So you're going to explain your tent design and your fabric estimate to your partners. So some of this we're going to do when we get back to class, but go ahead and think about what you would explain to someone about your tent and designing it. Be sure to explain why you chose the design and how you found your fabric. So compare the estimated fabric necessary for each tent in your group. So once we get back together, we'll take what we made and came up with about the tent design, and we'll share that with the group. So if you're one of the eager beavers and you've already designed your tent and you come to school on Monday, hopefully you get this and it makes sense. I may use you to help explain to other people who may not have had power, may not have had internet access, so that we're all kind of getting on the same page. And I always believe that if you can teach it, you've learned it twice. Yes, Deep Thinking by Miss Williams. So, no pressure. I realize you may get into this and you may think I'm in over my head. I've never designed a tent before. I can't do this. Do what you can. Design some, you can design pieces. Design the bottom. Make sure you can fit up to 4 sleeping bags. Design the sides. Do one piece at a time. So it's almost like you're creating a net that eventually will fold up to be a tent. So do the best you can. I just wanted to kind of get us started so that we were not too far behind since we've missed 2 days of school. And I thought this activity might be fairly easy for you to take care of and get started on. So there's that. Do the best you can. Your parents can always reach me through the Remind app and I can help as needed. But if it gets too crazy and you can't put it all together or you don't have access to everything, don't worry about it. We'll be fine. Lots of grace and mercy, because really it's a weekend activity and no pressure. All right. I hope for Core 1 and Core 3, I hope that you will get to take your Unit 1 test on Tuesday. So if we come to school Monday, we will have our Unit 1 test on Tuesday, finally. All right. Stay safe, everybody, and I'll see you soon.